We now move on to the session 4, which is going to be chaired by Professor Dr. Abdul Qadir Mushtaq. Professor Dr. Abdul Qadir Mushtaq is a distinguished academic and researcher at Government College University, Faisalabad. He is currently working as Chairman, Department of Pakistan Studies. His work is well regarded, reflecting his commitment to excellence in education and research. He has widely published in international and national journals. He is known for his dedication to advancing knowledge and leadership in various academic initiatives in GC University, Faisalabad. Please put your hands together to welcome Professor Dr. Abdul Qadir Mushtaq. I would like to invite our speakers for this panel, Professor Dr. Muhammad Iqbal Chawla, former Dean, University of Punjab, Lahore. Sir, please come on the stage. Put your hands together to welcome Professor Dr. Muhammad Iqbal Chawla. Our next speaker, Dr. Samar Majid from University of Education, Lahore. This paper has been co-authored by Fizan Naqvi, who is a PhD student in University of Education, Lahore. Please welcome Dr. Samar Majid. The third speaker of this panel is Dr. Naila Parvez. She is an assistant professor in Habib University, Karachi. Please welcome Dr. Naila Parvez. Our fourth speaker for this panel is Dr. Philipp Sahmesh from University of Heidelberg, Germany. Please put your hands together to welcome Dr. Philipp. The fifth speaker for the panel is Dr. Shahid Zahir from National Textile University, Faisalabad. Please welcome Dr. Shahid Zahir. This panel is going to explore the themes regarding from glory to modernity, unveiling historical narratives and key personalities in Lyallpur. Over to you, Professor Dr. Abdul Qadir Mushtaq.
Thank you very much, Dr. Khola. It's a great opportunity and privilege for me to take the session as a moderator. And I think it's a good tradition that is going to be established in Lyallpur, that we are discussing regional history. In Pakistan, often the history is written of the rulers, or it is being written under the influence of religion. It's a very different concept that we are going to discuss the different aspects of the regional history in Faisalabad. As far as this session is concerned, the topic of this session is from glory to modernity, unveiling historical narratives and key personalities in Lyallpur. We always discuss the concept of narrative in context of state, what the state wants to promote in the society, what the state wants to implement in the society. It is very necessary to understand the concept of narrative. Or it is only the narrative of the state, or the masses have their own narratives. These are two different things. When we discuss the concept of narrative, the different historians or the scholars have described in a different angle. Some people say that it is just a storytelling. Some people say that it is there are different aspects or kinds of the narratives. So, how the researcher have implemented the concept of narrative in their research? Different questions arises in my mind. What is the narrative in a research? What are the techniques of narratives writing? What are the parts of a narrative research paper? What is an example of narratives in a research? These are the different concepts or different questions. Let's see how our researchers have discussed these questions in their researches. When we discuss the concept of research in history, we see that it is storytelling in history or something else. In history, narrative research includes such as approaches such as life story, research, oral history, biography, personal experiences, methods, and narrative inquiries. When we discuss the concept of narrative in history, then we see all these things in the form of narratives. Then I would like to ask my research scholars who are going to present their research at this forum, how the narrative they have taken, what kind of narrative they have taken in their research. The first researcher that our panel is Professor Dr. Muhammad Iqbal Chawla. I request him to present his research in context of narratives in Lyallpur.
Once again, I'm thankful to the organizers, and thank you, Dr. Kader, for your wonderful introduction and posing a question which is very difficult to answer. If I start answering that, my paper will be skipped. I will try to touch in my presentation. Like, if I have to introduce what is exact title, Resistance Revolution, Contemplating Bhagat Singh's Perspective on India's Freedom Struggle. Luckily, Dr. Rizwan Kokab is here. When we launched MPhil program in our department, and I drafted this course, Resistance, Movement and Revolution. And primarily, I was interested to understand why people resist, how the movement starts, and what are the causes and the consequences of the revolutions. And then we made some case studies, that's all. I had no idea that one day I would be taking that kind of framework to present Bhagat Singh's life and works. But before that, let me acknowledge Dr. Tohid Chatta's PhD thesis on Kirti Kisan Party and Dr. Anam's thesis on resistance on the same, almost the same pattern. We try to understand why even the Punjabis have laid on so many sacrifices and always resisted and brought revolutions or movements, why they are still considered, like we have been saying, officialistic, why they are in the margin. So that is why we try to explore it. So I have taken material from them, and also Shah Sahab has given me a book, wonderful book. Little bit I try to study it. It looks as if what I have written is a mixture of all that. But whatever I'm going to Kader Sahab suggest is my understanding. I have not finished it. It's evolving. I am trying to understand Bhagat Singh, hardly 23 years old, offered his life and sacrificed his life and becomes a martyr. So that's what history is all about, the heroes, why he is the hero. Now I start my presentation. Bhagat Singh, a towering figure in India's independence movement, used a blend of resistance, resilience, and revolutionary terror to fight British imperialism. His political ideology, a blend of Marxist and revolutionary activism, ignited a new wave of resistance, particularly among the youth. Bhagat Singh promoted his philosophy through his writings, speeches, and actions. He was resolute, dedicating himself entirely to armed resistance and refusing to negotiate or relinquish his demands. Influenced by philosophies of Lenin and Trotsky, Marx, he aimed to spark a revolution in India and employed terror as a tactic, drawing inspiration from Irish freedom fighters, Congress activists opposing the partition of Bengal, and the Ghadar movement. He saw himself as part of the global struggle for freedom, seeking not only to end British rule, but also to bring about a revolution that would ensure social and economic justice. His movement echoed the concerns of rural society, where small landholders faced significant socio-economic challenges, and he fought to liberate them from exploitation. While the Sikh Gurdwara movement and the Jallianwala Bagh massacre influenced him as a member of Sikh community, his admiration for Lala Lajpat Rai, his education at National College, and his secular ideals shaped him into a leader who was not only Punjabi, Indian, but also recognized on a global scale. This study uses primary and secondary sources. Primary sources, particularly Bhagat Singh's own writings, letters, speeches, and statements, to explore Singh's lesser explored perspectives on socialism, resistance, and revolution, highlighting his significant impact on Indian nationalism and Indian freedom movement and its relevance to the present age. This paper seeks to explore Bhagat Singh's involvement in the resistance movement through three key dimensions: his family background and upbringing, the influence of global freedom movements and their impact on India, and the British policies, including their suppression of Indian, along with his philosophy regarding India's freedom and the strategies to achieve it. The 20th century saw the rise of numerous global resistance movements, both passive and active, against British rule in Ireland and also in India, and particularly in Punjab. While many of these movements in Punjab faced challenges, they played a vital role in maintaining consistent pressure on the British administration, ultimately contributing to its decision to withdraw from India. There are numerous examples of strong resistance by Punjabi patriots, including Pangdi Sabhal Jatta, like yesterday, Peshawar Singh has explained it already, the Ghadar movement, the Lahore conspiracy cases, Reshmi Rumal movement, opposition to the Rowlatt Act, then the Jallianwala Bagh tragedy occurs. However, this study primarily focuses on the life and legacy of Bhagat Singh. Like yesterday, Professor Peshawar Singh has mentioned Ajit Singh, uncle of Bhagat Singh, and his father's contribution in the Pagdi Sawal Jatta, and later on, why he was banished and also chose to have self-exile later in Iran, and he came back in 1947 when India got independence. That is his family background. That is his orientation. Then the historical context of the movement. Post-colonial studies emphasize resistance as a key factor in understanding colonial interactions. The Sikh community initiated the Gurdwara reform movement to regain control of their Gurdwaras from the British, assigned priests like the Kamagata Maro, Gadrites, orders and the Jallianwala Bagh massacre fueled their motivations. Sikhs organized protest and formed the Central Sikh League in 1919. Tension escalated between 1922 to 25, leading to Babbar Akali Crusade, then the KKP Kisan Kirti movement, like I mentioned of Dr. Tauheed Chatta's work, was the Indian revolutionary movements from Punjab and was one of the founders of the Babbar Akali movement. Bhagat Singh's ideology or philosophy. Bhagat Singh's political philosophy was deeply rooted in Marxism, influenced by figures like Karl Marx, Trotsky, and Lenin. His writings, often published under pseudonyms, critiqued British colonialism and advocated for revolutionary terrorism as a necessary response. He admired the dedication of earlier revolutionaries such as the Babbar Akali movement and believed that young Indians needed to embrace similar ideals. Bhagat Singh's focus on violence and anarchism was not blind. He sought to clarify and defend these ideologies as essential for achieving autonomy. Everybody knows his works little bit. I quickly go for. In 1924, he joined Hindustan Republic Association. Then he founded Nojwane Bharat Sabha in Lahore and also wrote in Kirti Kisan Party, Nojwan Bharat Sabha newspaper, and other papers. He was arrested in Kakori case. Then he was released because lack of evidence. Then Bhagat Singh was very much respectful to his teacher, Lala Lajpat Rai, and when he was, killed by the police, British police, to avenge that, he killed a person who was not intended to be killed, John Saunders. Then he threw cracker that is called bomb in the Central Legislature Assembly, and that is why he was arrested a couple of times. Then he protested in the Miawali jail and observed hunger strike, etc., etc. Then, Lahore conspiracy trial took place and he was sentenced to death. Why sentenced to death too early, too quickly? These are, his word, the Inqilab Zindabad, became very popular. And yesterday, Dr. Abrar Zuhur was saying that print media was at that time was the main media. They made him a hero, especially the Punjabi. Somebody was saying vernacular languages and the local history. They made him, so popular from Punjab to India, India to the world. 3 distinct strategies were employed to achieve India's full independence. First, the use of purely constitutional methods, which was the approach of the Congress leadership from 1885 to 1905, and the All India Muslim League from 1906 to 1947. Second, Mahatma Gandhi's method, which involved launching various non-violent movements to achieve multiple objectives. The third approach was championed by radical leaders who engaged in agitational politics and at times armed struggle. Bhagat Singh, like Subhash Chandra Bose later embodied the third approach, believing that India could only gain freedom by forcing the British to live through an armed struggle. The East India Company had conquered India by force, and the British had continued that policy of suppressing Indians whenever they confronted them. Unlike the Congress, which combined passive and active resistance to press for their demand, Bhagat Singh and his followers advocated for more direct and confrontational methods. Although he was involved in broader historical movements in Punjab and the subcontinent, his distinct philosophy and courageous actions earned him a unique place in history, ultimately leading to his execution at a young age. His ideas and deeds inspired Indian youth, sparking both passive and active resistance movements, including those led by figures like Subhash Chandra Bose, Quit India movement, and the broader Indian freedom struggle, and that culminated in independence. Even the 2020 farmers' movement in India can be viewed as continuation of his legacy of resistance, resisting oppressive government measures. And you can imagine his stature, that even the political parties and the leaders like Jinnah and Nehru took note of him. Jawaharlal Nehru visited him jail and showed his solidarity, whereas Jinnah spoke in the National Legislature Council and supported, Bhagat Singh. Thank you very much. These are the rough, sketches. Thank you.
Professor Dr. Muhammad Iqbal Chawla with Bhagat Singh's ideas and his struggle for liberation movement. Sir, thank you very much. The today's next speaker is Dr. Samar Majid, the historical landmark of Jallianwala.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. First of all, I would like to thank all the organizers. As Professor Wandal has rightly said, the Chima and the Chatta combination. So I am really thankful to them. And I'm thankful in another way as well, apart from their hospitality, apart from the great organization of this whole event. I am thankful as well because, in this whole bunch of the historians, I am, I think, the only odd one out, because I'm not at all a historian. I am the student of archaeology, basically. So my talk would be related to archaeology. So I would be talking about the historical landmarks of Jallianwala. And my co-author in this paper is Faizan Abbas, who is very well known as Lahore Ka Khoji, if you have heard about him. So the history of Jallianwala, it is located towards the eastern side of the district, Faisalabad. It is a very small town, as I will be showing you in the map of Punjab, that where it is located. But it is small in terms of geography. Its geographical setting is, has actually undergone various changes, which made it smaller day by day. And that is the administrative issues which are related to different governments and all that. So, but the place is not small in terms of its history. It is a great place, as there are many people related to this place. For instance, you all have heard a lot about Bhagat Singh and Sir Gangaram. Although Sir Gangaram was not born in Jallianwala, but he stayed there for quite some time, and he had a few related places which are there in the whole tehsil of Jallianwala. So unfortunately, not much literature was available while I was studying this place. And especially the ancient history of this land is missing, as far as I know. You can help me out if you know anything about the ancient history of this place, and if that is written somewhere. There are a few books which are written mostly in Urdu. And one of those good works one of them is done by Sayyidur Rahman Saqib, whose book is titled Tarikh-e-Janawala. And he has mentioned a lot of things about Janawala in that book. And there is another mention of another book as well, who has, it's titled Nagar Nagar Punjab as well. Aslam Sheikh Saab has written that. Before that, when the area was the whole of the land of the subcontinent was under the British rule, there was a norm that usually the gazetteers were made. So this is an unfortunate that Janawala also did not had the gazetteer where all the history and everything is written there. So looking back to the history of Janawala was really a challenge for us, for me and my co-author, because people are there, they are practicing their culture from thousands of years, and still there is nothing written about their ancient culture, so that was a challenging task. In 17th century, the history was again lost because the Janawala was divided between Jhang and Montgomery, which we all know, present-day Sahiwal, under the administrative control of Multan. So Multan was very far away, and that's why the administrative control of that land was a bit difficult at that time. So during 18th century, it was handed over again for management to Faisalabad. At that time, it was called Lyallpur. Then in 1933, it was declared as Tehsil when Saidwala and other 137 small rural settlements, which are called Chaks, were included in this Tehsil. So in 1922, Nankana Sahib was declared as Tehsil, therefore the adjoining areas of the Saidwala came under it, thus making Janawala much more smaller than it was before in 1922. So if you look at the map of the whole Punjab, and there is the mention of Janawala, and a black arrow goes all the way down to a very teeny tiny place, which is Janawala. So you can see that how small the place of Janawala geographically is. But in terms of its history, it's a huge place. Why is it important? Because this small locality has Bhagat Singh, who was born in Bangla locality of the Janawala. Bhagat Singh also had a companion who was called Khan Sehergul Khan, who was also born in Janawala, and he was actually the person who took the legacy of Bhagat Singh and all the movement down to his time. Mia Abdul Bari was another important name in the freedom movement of the subcontinent, who also belonged to Janawala. And the legend of Mirza Sahiba, you all know about it, that also took place in Danabad of Janawala. Sir Gangaram, as I mentioned earlier, again I have only 5 minutes, okay. So I don't want to go into the details. I just want to tell you that what are the historical places which we have in Janawala and what we need to do. At the end, I will give you some recommendations as well. So this is the birthplace of Bhagat Singh. This is the place where Bhagat Singh was born. There is a small commemorative board as well. Next, please. So a small museum has been made at that place where some of the belongings of Bhagat Singh are placed in that museum. There are some photographs also which are displayed in the museum. Next, please. Then is the Haveli of Sir Gangaram. Next, please. I don't want to go into the architectural details. This is the Haveli, where he stayed for quite some time. Next, please. Thank you. Next. These are the different views of the Haveli. Next, please. All right. Next is the Ghoda or the horse train, which, or you can say the horse cart, which was also called Anokhi Savari at Jadawala as well. Next, please. So, in recent times, the station of that Ghoda train was renovated, and the commemorative stone was placed there. But if you remember, any one of you, हमने बचपन में एक प्रोग्राम देखा करते थे 50-50 अगर किसी को याद हो, तो उसमें एक वो खाका था कि वो M&A साहब जो है पौधा लगाते हैं और उसके बाद जब वो चलते हैं तो बकरी पीछे पौधा खा जाती है. So this is what happened with the station of the जड़ावाला, जो कि घोड़ा ट्रेन का स्टेशन था, उसके साथ यही हुआ that as soon as they put that plate there and they left, and the rest is history now. Next, please. So this is the train track of that Ghoda train. You can see it is broken in between, so it cannot be used. And it goes all the way, about 3 kilometers to another place. Next, please. This is the station from where the train used to leave for another village. This is the larger view of the station. And you can see the train tracks where the girls are standing. It's all gone. Next, please. So it leads to the fields as well. Next, please. So this is one of the carts which is lying on the road right now, and it is in a very bad state of condition that you cannot even touch it because it's all deteriorating. Next, please. These are the wheels of the cart, which is totally made of the iron, and it is rusted now. Next, please. So you can see that these wheels are just like the wheels of the train. So this is what is happening to it. Next, please. All right. Then there is a Gurdwara as well, which is called Shri Guru Singh Sabha, which is there. So let's see what happened to that as well. Next, please. So this is the stone, which is in the marble, what you say, takhti jo hoti hai, that is lying there, and you can see the paintings as well, which are very badly deteriorating. Next, please. This is the closer view of that plate. This is the outer view. A lot has been changed now. Next, please. So this is what is happening to all the plates which are fixed inside the Gurdwara. So you can see that how badly they are in the state of deteriorating. There are so many plates inside and outside the Gurdwara, but this is what is happening to it. Next, please. So you can see the old bricks there, but what is happening, it's serving as the parking. Next, please. You can see the pillars. It's okay. You can see the pillars, and then this is the wider view from outside the Gurdwara. Next, please. These are the stones which are fixed inside. A few are in better condition, but most of them are destroyed. Next, please. Then there is a Pakistani gate as well, which was constructed for some reason. The history is already there, but I am short of time, so I don't want to go into the details of it. Next, please. This is the Pakistani gate, and you can see that how intensely the flow of traffic is there, which is actually giving very bad effects to the Pakistani gate, which is also a very historical one. Next, please. Next is a Hindu temple is also there. This is the history of it. The temple has 2 shikaras adjoined together, and that is a very uncommon feature in the Hindu temples, because there is usually 1 shikara, and then there is a vihara, and then there is another shikara above it. So there are 2 shikaras adjoined together. Next, please. This is the outer view of the temple. This is the painting of the ceiling inside the Shikara, which is beautifully painted with the frescoes. And the subject matter of this is very interesting. I can discuss it later on because I don't have right now the time. This is the closer view of the paintings. Next, please. This is the whole overview of the temple. And then there is a railway station at Janamala as well, which was constructed in 1909. It was between Janamala and Shorecourt. Next, please. So this is what the right now the condition of the station is. Next, please. Next. And there is a clock tower as well, which is in regard to the clock tower at Lyallpur, but it does not have a clock, so it is a tower only. And the recommendations are that we need to immediately do something about the restoration and preservation of these monuments. And I leave it to the historians to make narrative about it, because where the work of an archaeologist finishes, the work of the historians start. So I leave it to you guys to think about it. Thank you very much.
Dr. Samar Majid with her archaeological research. The next speaker and topic is very interesting for us, that a lot of production units in Faisalabad, but people prefer the productions of Lahore and Karachi. What are the reasons behind it? I would like to invite Shahid Zahir to present his research.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. My topic of today's presentation is an inquiry of the evaluation and non-acceptance of female fashion brands in Faisalabad. A short intro of this presentation is, this research reveals into a fascinating paradox in Faisalabad, Pakistan textile hub, where despite being the origin of several homegrown fashion brands, these brands face local rejection. In contrast, brands from Lahore and Karachi find more success in Faisalabad, even though Faisalabad boosts more production units than these cities. The study investigates why local female fashion brands from Faisalabad are not accepted. Research objectives. The core research problem is to understand why local female fashion brands from Faisalabad are not embraced by the local market, despite the city's significant role in the textile and fashion industry. This research will explore the social, cultural, and economic factors that contribute to the non-acceptance of these brands. Objective. First objective is to identify the key factors leading to the rejection of homegrown fashion brands in Faisalabad. Number two is to understand the role of social class and consumer behavior in the acceptance of fashion brands. Number third is to analyze the influence of aspirational marketing and the trickle-down effects in fashion trends. And number four is to compare the success of fashion brands from Faisalabad with those from Lahore and Karachi. Methodology. Research design qualitative case study method is used. Data collection, in-depth interview with 6 participants, including 3 fashion designers and 3 industrialists owning fashion brands in Faisalabad. Data analysis. Content analysis technique will be employed to interpret the data and extract meaningful insight from the respondents' experience. Expected outcomes. The research is expected to reveal a complex interplay of social class, consumer aspirations, and marketing strategies that influence the acceptance of fashion brands in Faisalabad. It provides valuable insights for local designers and brand owners on how to better positioning their product in the local market. Challenges faced by local fashion brands in Faisalabad. Number one is perception of prestige and social status. Local brands in Faisalabad struggle with the perception that fashion from Lahore and Karachi is superior. This perception is deeply rooted in the social status associated with these cities. Where fashion trends often originated, as a result, local consumers may view Faisalabad-based brands as less prestigious, regardless of the quality and innovation they offer. Number second is consumer preference for external brands. Despite being a textile powerhouse, Faisalabad consumers often prefer fashion brands from outside the city. This preference is influenced by a desire to be associated with more cosmopolitan and elite lifestyle, which is symbolized by brands from larger cities like Lahore and Karachi. This creates a significant barrier for local brands trying to establish themselves in their own market. The next one is limited marketing and brand positioning. Many local brands lack the resources or expertise to effectively market themselves and positioning their product in a way that appeals to the aspirational nature of consumers. Without strong branding and marketing strategies, these brands struggle to compete with the more polished and widely recognized brands from other cities. The next one is conservative social norms. This is very important. Faisalabad conservative social fabric poses another challenge, particularly for female fashion brands. Designers must navigate the delicate balance between creating fashionable modern attire and adhering to traditional expectations. This can limit their creative freedom and reduce their appeal to broader, more progressive audience. So next one is influence of the trickle-down effect, lack of industrial collaboration and support, resistance to change the innovation. So, strategic roadmap, rebranding and enhancing prestige. Local brands can address the perception of prestige by rebranding themselves to emphasize quality, innovation, and cultural heritage. By aligning their brand image with the high standard associated with fashion from Lahore and Karachi. Faisalabad-based brands can start to shift consumer perception. Collaborating with renowned designers or influencers from these cities could also enhance their prestige. Trickle-up effect. Instead of focusing on following trends from larger cities, local brands can aim to set their own trends, potentially influencing the broader fashion market. By emphasizing originality and the rich textile history of Faisalabad, these brands can position themselves as trendsetters, not just followers. This trickle-up effect can gradually shift the perception of Faisalabad as a source of fashion innovation. Next, we need targeted marketing campaigns, branding strong local and national network, innovative and culturally sensitive designs, sourcing financial supports and investments, engaging with local influencers, consumer education and awareness, adapting to global trends with local flavor. To compete with international brands, local fashion houses should incorporate global fashion trends while adding a district local flavor. This approach allows brands to stay relevant and fashionable while also offering something unique that international brands cannot replicate. Experimenting with fusion design that blend traditional Pakistani elements with contemporary style could attract both local and global audience. Conclusion. My conclusion is Faisalabad local fashion brand, despite the city's strong textile heritage, face challenges such as perception issues and consumers' preferences for external brands. To overcome these, brands must focus on rebranding strategies, marketing, industrial collaboration, and innovative design that resonate with both local and national audience. By leveraging digital platforms, setting trends, and emphasizing their unique identity, Faisalabad fashion houses can reshape their image, gain recognition, and play a significant role in Pakistan fashion industry. Thank you so much.
Shahid Zahir Saab with inquiry-based approach towards research. Now I would like to invite Ravian as well as historian from Government College Lahore. She was junior to me, and I request her, Dr. Naila Parvez, Songs of the Marginalized Women, and she has focused upon a special title, Chudi. She elaborates the concept of Chudi, how it is elaborated in songs.
Assalamu alaikum and Sat Sri Akal, and very warm welcome to all of you, and thank you so much, Khala and Tawheed. The topic I've selected today is Chureti Nama. Chureti Nama is from Chuhri, which is a subcaste. It is basically the lowest of the lowest in the society. So, Chuhri is a term specifically used for the scavengers, right? So, Chuhretri is another derivation from that Chuhri, which means the lowest of the lowest. So, the Sufis, they call themselves Chuhretri in a sense. Particularly, I'm talking about Waris Shah. So, that is the difference between a Chuhri and a Chuhretri, right? Okay, so if we talk about history and its significance and its relevance with it is that if we ever heard about a man or the king, he was killed, and later his wife or the queen, she died. So it would be just the collection of past. But if we say that the king was killed by his gunman and the queen, she died because of mourning him. So it will be a collection of events. It's a storytelling. And I think it is the better way of understanding or interpreting the past as well, because it will definitely cover the whole lot of story. So, because of the shortage of time, I'm not going to the detail of this part as well. I'll just focus on the main point. But here, let me tell you that the history is clearly divided into two parts, the powerful and the powerless. So these two groups we can clearly see the division of society and the division of history between two major groups of society. Punjabi Sufi poetry and the folklore, they both served as felt literature. Felt literature, when we say it, means that they were focusing on presenting the feelings of the common masses, right? Which could not be heard otherwise. Ishwar Dayal Gaul is of the opinion that it is an avant-garde movement as well, because this literature is an unconventional way of dealing with the problems of the people around. These are source of pride for these invisible groups of the society. And definitely we all know that they are woefully underestimated and underrepresented and underappreciated because of their irrational prejudices towards certain castes in the society. These sources, which I am going to talk about, are in fact help address various type of historiographical silences in the history writing. So aim of the paper is to present multiple marginalization of the low-born women as they were bound to their biological and social identities. Sufi language is allegorical in nature, we all know that. And they employed symbols, similes, metaphors to convey their message. They will hardly use any flowery language as well, because the main concern of their poetry is its meaning and not the language itself. So presenting oneself in the place of a woman, it was a common norm in Punjabi society, and particularly in Punjabi Sufi poetry. So moreover, the Sufis talk about their marginalized communities, including women and lowborn and the working class, the menials, right? In the world of Sufism, many Sufis gave their voice to these voiceless sections of the society. And in order to portray their pain and degradation, these women faced in social order. Women were always at the receiving end of the social order and throughout the globe. You can take multiple examples from here. They don't have any history of their own. They can't call any history as their own history. As someone was telling here, Virdi was telling about a lady who was from the partition and she was unable to talk about herself because she needs specific permission from the male members of the family. So it happens really when someone came from the archives, from the slums, they were collecting material from for the partition leftovers. So my nani is one of them, and they came here and they said, we want to have an interview with you. So she said, Naila, tum bahar jao, or I can talk to them. Okay? So even she was unable to share it with me, but she was sort of okay with the unknown people who know nothing about her. So she was not ready to disclose any of the things at this ripe age as well. So that is the problem. We are unable to, and we don't want to share our very personal experiences of that disaster with our families. There could be multiple reasons for that. So the same status, if you talk about that is what I'm talking about, the women of comparatively a better status in the society. But what about those women who are marginalized and have a very low status in the society? They are totally unable to what to say, what to talk about their statuses of the society or their wishes and their dreams in a society. They are usually, in a feudal setup, they are usually debt-ridden, and bounded laborers. They can't have any respectable position or the respectable statuses or professions in social order. So being landless was one of the major reasons, because in a feudal setup, they were supposed to work as a forced labor, जिसको बेगार भी कहा जाता है. So बेगार के साथ साथ they were also forced for, they were usually having multiple marginalization, including the sexual abuse, having economic degradation, there were caste differences, they were unable to speak for themselves, they were unable to talk about themselves, their problems, and the sarcasm in the society they were facing, their illiteracy and their social seclusion in the society. So what Chudetri Nama exactly is? It was introduced for the first time by Shah Hussain in 16th century and by Bulleh Shah and Waris Shah in 18th century. So it was almost 200 years apart. But the themes were almost the same, except Waris Shah's, whose Chudetri Nama is a bit detailed one. It's a poem focusing on the denial of the gender and caste-based division of the society. Sufi poets of Punjab, throughout the history, they place themselves in the place of the lowest rung of the society. That is the chudi. I'm not saying the chura, the chudi, the female version, you know. She's facing the marginality, the oppression, the degradation at the hands of the landlord and also of her husband, you know. So she's facing a more deeper marginalization in the society. Being a chudi is the worst form one could ever imagine. This is the Chudetri Nama of Shah Hussain, and I'm in love with these. I love these lines. Chudi haan darbar di, ਧਿਆਨ ਦੀ ਛਜਲੀ ਗਿਆਨ ਦਾ ਝਾੜੂ ਕਾਮ ਕ੍ਰੋਧ ਨਿਤ ਝਾੜਦੀ. काजी जाने हाकिम जाने फारिग खती वगारदी. Farig means she's free from the forced labor. It's a letter from the landowner, right? Where she's supposed to work for him for free. मल जाने और मेहता जाने टहल करां सरकार दी कहे हुसैन फ़कीर न माना तरब तेरे दीदार दी. Bulle Shah's is more interesting one. I'll just read a few lines from here. क्या चूड़ी क्या ज़ात चूड़ी दी हर कोई साथों नसे कर कार बेगार अर्थिया होना जां पर साईं वसे की कुछ पड़ती लाग चूड़ी दा घुंडी और सरहाना जो कुछ दिता आप साईं ने 100 घर लेकर जाना. Because she's so worthless, she can't speak for herself, she can't own anything, and she just spends her life on the leftovers of the rest of the people. फटा पुराना पाग साडा भुख टुक्कड़ सज बेहा फाका कड़ाका मंगण पिन्नण. पिन्नण is another form of आप किसी को झंझोड़ के उसको हिला के और हिला के मांग रहे होते हैं ना, उससे लड़ के मांग रहे होते हैं. That is पिन्नण. चाल साड़ी एहा रच रछोड़ ते तीले काने ए साड़ी कारों मैं चुरेटरियाँ सच्चे साहब दे दरबारों. तो सच्चा साहब is God, his mentor, his Shaw, his husband. So there are so many interpretations of it. And lastly, garam goha te naram चुरेटड़ी सिर बिरहूं छज चुकाए सौड़ियां गलियां लगदे तक्के मां ना वेखन मारे उच्चियां कड़ियां नीवें दरवाजे असां लिफ लिफ हाल वंजाए शरीयतों अगे लंघ तरीकत हकीकतों मार्फत जावा. So the people who do believe that Sufism has nothing to do with Sharia or jurisprudence, it's a misperception, right? So we need to reread certain sources in order to get the better understanding of all these things. And you know, these sources will help us understand more about our culture, which is still prevalent. These things are not old enough. ये आज भी हम ऐसे ही प्रैक्टिस कर रहे हैं. चूड़ी को आज भी हम उतना ही गंदा समझ रहे हैं. हम हमारे घर पर आए, हमारे घर के गटर को साफ करें और हम उसको कहें कि दरवाजे को हाथ नहीं लगाना. I'll open the gate for you. You don't, please, you better don't touch it. चवें मकाने चाड़ू फेरा ता चूड़ी नाम सदावा वारिस जा दरबार साहब दे मैं कार विगार छुड़ावा. Then he says that मैं करदी कुट्ठी बकरी उल्टी खल हाई. We all know about Mansoor Halaj and his lifetime. Izazil is another name it's another name for shaitan, for shaitan. Azazil nu khudiyon gal vich lanak tauq pehnai waris manya main na akhe ta shahan dast bithai. Another line indicates the status of women in the society. He says, Alfon be na aakhe uthe khawand kolo dardi. In another line, he says, Aakad tekad rahi na mainu sun gyan rabbane. Because God is here to tell us to stay in your limits. The nature can do anything and everything. Teri dadi beparwahi kolon खौफ चुरेटरी जाने, because I'm afraid of you. वारिस तौबा तौब पुकारा वेखा तरफ शैताने जालिम जुल्म यतीमा उते कर कर जुल्म सतावन ए गाफिल समझ ना जानन ताकत पे वंजावन वारिस आखर लेख देवन मर्दे पीछे तावन मीन्स पछताते हैं उसके बाद आप. last line I would love to share, and that is very important when we talk about the multiple marginalization of Techuri. She was also the one who gained a specific status in her lifetime after Peer Pira Sir Hazrat Mira, Main Chudi Haan Jisti. She's connecting herself with the socially and the religiously and the spiritually elevated person, Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani. Muridi la takhaffaf, मैं पढ़िया हुन खौफ नहीं कुछ करती, वारिस अगे मैं सा डरदी हुन खलकत में थों डरदी. Right? So in her early life, she was afraid of people and men and everyone who considered them an outcast, and she was an untouchable. But when she connected herself with the Sacha Sahab, with the one who is the one, and now she's no more afraid of the people. Now she's connecting, now people started providing or giving her respect, you know. So, Abdul Qadir Ghausal Azam Peer Sada Mira, Bedi Garak Nikali Palvich Maaf Kare Taksira, Varis Khas Murida Kya Gam, Tu Dil Vich Kar Nazira. Thank you so much.
Dr. Naila Parvez, very unique topic. और मैं सोच रहा था कि बाबे बुल्ले शाह का जिक्र हो, शाह हुसैन का जिक्र हो और वारिस शाह का, और तौहीद की हा ना निकले, ये कैसे हो सकता है. तो वो दाद दिए बगैर ना रह सके. तो एक इसी कॉन्टेक्स्ट में एक शेर मेरे भी ज़हन में आ रहा था कि मैनू मार के मुंज कर निकी करके कुट, मैनू मार के मुंज कर निकी करके कुट, भरे ख़जाने रब दे जो भावें सो लुट. कि नफ्स को जो कंट्रोल करने की एक एफ़र्ट है, वो मैं समझता हूँ कि वो माशरे से उसने तशबीहात और इस्तारे लेकर जो है वो बात समझाने की कोशिश की है. बहुत अच्छा डिफरेंट टॉपिक था. तो नेक्स्ट स्पीकर इज़ फिलिप जामिश. I request him to present his research.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation, and thank you for giving me another opportunity to speak. I'm going to come down here because I have actually my slides, and I also want to comment on them and have some quotes on them. So I'm speaking, as the title also suggests already, on the relationship between historiography and ethnography. And I think historiography is quite clear to everyone what that is. But ethnography has been kind of sort of the gift of anthropology to many other disciplines. And it's not equivalent with anthropology itself. So ethnography is, on the one hand, a methodological paradigm, including fieldwork and participant observation as such. And ethnography is at the same time also a textual genre. And this is when we write about what we experience in the field. So ethnography has been taken sort of lightly. It's like a Pandora's box that other disciplines have adopted as a quick go-to method to talk to someone in the field. So there's political scientists who go somewhere and have a small conversation, say, I've done some ethnography. There's historians who kind of do a couple of interviews and say, I do ethnography. So, and I think ethnography for anthropologists is something that is based on years of disciplinary training. That's a methodological paradigm that you learn, and this is something that you apply carefully after you kind of sort of have years of practice. So it's something that sort of informs a practice, and I would like to nonetheless draw here, like, let's say, a comparison, or let's say also look at the overlaps between historiography and ethnography. Because it overlaps at the point where, as anthropologists, you're doing something like an ethnography, like a historiography of the present. So there's always an ethnographic present, that's when you're in the field. And that's also valid for historian in some ways. You talk to somebody, you go to an archive, so you're also in a sort of present. And you construct the past in that moment. In the same way, for ethnographers also it matters like what happened in the past. So the past is obviously very important for constructing what is the present and the future. So mostly what ethnographers do is actually talk about the past. So and that's and there's an and here you see two of my past engagements in fieldwork. On the left side, as a doctoral student in the Andaman Islands, where I talked with, in that case, Burmese repatriate settlers, refugee settlers of Tamil origin. It's quite complex. About their migration and about how they came to the Andamans and how they were settled. And in the other setting, that was last year in December, where I've been doing fieldwork in Cholistan with Cholistani Hindus, Megwal. And equally, we were talking about the past. We were actually talking to some elder people about their experience of the border making after 1971, how their movement as former nomads was restricted, narratives about partition, about heritage in the desert. So it demonstrates very vividly that actually what anthropologists are mostly doing is talk about the past and then look at the past from the present point of view. So I think there's an obvious overlap. So what I will talk about today is first challenges for an historiography. Then I will highlight coexisting patterns of memorializing and narrating history. And third, I will have let's say, a turn to the locality here and ways of memorializing Bhagat Singh. And I'm glad a lot of has been said about Bhagat Singh already, so I don't need to introduce him as a figure, and then I'm going to conclude. So challenges for an ethnohistoriography is, of course, what I've said already, that scholars try to concentrate either on understanding historical past or ethnographic present, but in most cases, it's both actually. It's interwoven. And Barney Cohn is an anthropologist who worked in history. He reflected on the relationship between history and art and argued that academic traditions, methodological training, and particular culture within anthropological and historical faculties have produced different approaches and working styles. And there's a quote also, anthropologists work in space and historians work through time in their respective construction of accounts of otherness. So how can one combine insights from oral history that narrate the past and an ethnographic present with an analysis of the ethnographic presence that's constituted by constructing the past? And also, what is the common ground of both approaches and how do they differ from each other? And how can one establish an interface between the two? And I here see combining insights from cultural historians and ethnographers in order to assess how ideas and categories about the past and objects from the past gain meaning in the here and now. This is a book, an edited volume called Manifestations of History, Time, Space, and Community in the Andaman Islands that I edited with my supervisor, PhD supervisor, Frank Heidemann. And we wrote here about the challenges for an ethnohistoriographer from the perspective of two anthropologists. And we wrote, when talking about the past to our contemporaries in the Andamans, we experienced rather strange or even paradoxical situations. Our interlocutors, informants, and friends, as well as officials, businessmen, and politicians, had a rich reservoir of references to the past, which caught our interest. However, our questions and their answers did not always correspond. We enjoyed friendly relationships and agreed on most things we talked about, but with regard to history, our expectations and their views did not always meet. A strange undercurrent cross-cut our shared interest. Without identifying the foundation of this paradox, we continued our work, each of us among a particular community. Only later, when we analyzed our data from the field, did we realize that we had not a communication problem with our interlocutors. In our conversations we had, without thinking, applied very different concepts of history. And I'm now coming to these different concepts of history. And one is here, I call it coexisting patterns of memorializing and narrating history. And one is time-oriented. That means like here we have heard a variety of approaches. One time aspect could be here, I just call it Indus civilization. We can also call it archaeological some call it prehistory. Then there's often an Islamic history. I'm adopting this argument here to Pakistan, but it could be also applied in different ways somewhere else. A pre-Islamic, a colonial, pre-colonial, colonial, post-colonial, etc. So these are time frames. And they often go along a horizontal axis or linear progression of Eurocentric time, the CE for the Christian era, or according even other linear concepts are the Islamic or the Punjabi calendar, and we could take on some more calendars as well. So here, time is a means of bringing order to complexity, and is a structured and structuring element that serves to explain the past, present, and future. So, and now I'm coming to actually the other point, that was the discrepancy we had with our interlocutors, because we were always asking questions about time, and especially talking to subalterns in many ways, we didn't get this coherent, in this year from this to there, and here we went. So actually the narratives were very differently structured. And if you do oral history, if you practice oral history, you will often have this kind of challenge that actually you talk to someone and they have very different conception about how time works or how their narratives are actually composed. And what we found is there's very often a space orientation in people's stories, especially in subaltern history narrations of, let's say, oral histories. So there's emic concepts that were defined by human-environment relation, places of ancestral belonging, and in cases of migration, places of movement and migration. So, yeah, memories of the past are to a certain extent spatially oriented, so the stories are actually told via locating them to spaces, and here temporary and spatial dimension are irreversibly interconnected. There's an emphasis in most of these stories on locations, regions, territories, and other spatial dimensions. There's a localized memory, often even embodied, in which sites and regions matter more than time, and especially for people who have less school training or who are maybe differently literate or don't know how to write and read, they will tell the stories not, I'm going in 1975 from 21st January to 27th January, we moved from here to there, but they will tell stories, oh yeah, okay, this place and here we went to there, and this is how stories usually are told. So also settlement structures and residential patterns suggest the emergence of a heuristic social order in which communities, spatial locations matter. And yeah, there's clear references to space through language. And there's a third part we also had sort of identified that was community-oriented. So people, especially also here now talking in South Asia, would very often talk about themselves as part of a community, not as an individual, I am walking from here to there and I migrated at that time, but we are part of a community with ethnic, linguistic, religious, migration, refugees. And a good example I heard last night in a conversation that, for example, migrants from East Punjab who came to Faisalabad, still if they're from the same caste as their Jats, they very often don't intermarry with the local Jats. So here we also have these ideas. So my community is also defined by my movement, and that's also very often how people would tell their history. I'm coming now to my third point, and I try to now adopt this on Bhagat Singh. And we heard a lot about Bhagat Singh, and there's different ways of memorializing him. One is actually also that the Marxists claim him, and actually he read Marx and etc., and he was a leftist, but he was not a Marxist and not a Leninist, he was an anarchist. I just want to have that. And he was secular, so as compared, many people claim him in a community history sense of as a Sikh, but he was very secular, he was actually opposed to religion as such. So, and that's something that where his, let's say, his legacy has been hijacked. We're going to demonstrate that at some point. So, but what is also significant is here that the left would memorialize in South Asia Bhagat Singh in a certain way and portray him a certain way, while there's, for example, the state narrative in India tries to memorialize him now as an anti-colonial freedom fighter, without his even staunch opposition to religious chauvinism that the Hindu nationalist or Hindu fascist government right now would approach. So, but they now built also a statue in front of Lok Sabha, and with the Sikh turban, so they would also kind of portray him as a Sikh. And this is something that also the leftists actually, by the way, staunchly opposed, that Bhagat Singh is not, was a secular person. That's why he was also here portrayed often with his head. So that was something that was very important, I think, for him. And here his legacy is very much hijacked. So, and we know each state narrative. We have talked about it, and especially in the first session also. Sir has also talked about it, that there's certain notion national history is trying to craft. So nation making crafts a history, and here's a crafting also of a Hindu sort of, or an Indian history. And in the same way, Pakistan will craft a Pakistani nationalist narrative. So Bhagat Singh is also, and here I come a little bit to the space-related dimension, culture here located in places. These are both photos from India, taken in different spaces. He's a memorial in Hosseiniwala near Ferozpur is built at the border. So here Bhagat Singh is hijacked as a sense of, as a freedom fighter defending India, and this is near the Indian-Pakistani border, so as if he would be kind of fighting against Pakistan. So, but that's how then the narratives are crafted, and that's how maybe then also local people would understand these freedom fighters. So someone who doesn't know much about Bhagat Singh would get totally buy into, yeah, Bhagat Singh was a freedom fighter fighting against Pakistan or something. So I just mean that's how then in local, like, and then if you would do research about Bhagat Singh, you might be confronted with these narratives. In a similar way, he's also has an ancestral house of his family in Khatkar Kalan, that's also somewhere else in Punjab. So he was not born, he was born in Lyallpur district, and we heard this in with the previous speaker. So, but he has an ancestral home that he visited, and now it's also crafted. Bhagat Singh his ancestry is in India, so it's an Indian freedom fighter. So that's how people try to hijack him in India. Now you would go to India and everyone would say, oh yes, he's an Indian, yeah, of course. Now, what does it mean in Pakistan? What happened in Pakistan with Bhagat Singh? And I'm very glad that actually 2 presentations were on Bhagat Singh. So in Pakistan, he had been written out of the freedom fighter, let's say of the freedom fighter pantheon, you can say. So if you go to Lahore Museum or see any freedom fighter representation, you will not have non-Muslims in the freedom fighter pantheon. So here, this is something that he has now become subalternized, and different groups who want to craft a different narrative will kind of adopt Bhagat Singh. And here I went in 2019 to a book launch in Bradlaugh Hall in Lahore, which is a historical building which also Bhagat Singh visited. A book by Chris Moffat on reading Bhagat Singh today. So here it was like he was, let's say, among intellectual progressive circles, kind of reviving Bhagat Singh there. And it was, of course, appropriated as a son of, let's say, Pakistan in that sense, Lahore, where he was most active. But he could also be understood, of course, as a son of Lyallpur in that way. And there's yearly protests at Shatman Chowk in Lahore where he was hanged to kind of make a memorial and to memorialize Bhagat Singh as a son of, and let's say of Pakistan and Lahore, to claim him for Pakistan. Which is, I think, has not happened because he has been ascribed a Sikh identity, which is, of course, he has a Sikh ancestry, but not, let's say, a Sikh very strong adherence to religion. Yeah, and he has been also adopted in different ways by other groups. For example, at the Faiz Aman Mela, I found him. So that's also a progressive forum in which he is highlighted. So he now has sort of kind of is coming back, has a potential of rising or presenting a different idea of Pakistan in that way. And I also found in Hyderabad, in Sindh, among different progressive students who would take him up and celebrate him. And this way you will also now have Bhagat Singh coming up in different sections. The question is here also at what point it will be translated into a sort of larger hegemonic historical framework, or will that also remain like something, let's say, subordinated? I don't want to call him subaltern, but subordinated to the nationalist narrative. So I'm coming to the conclusion. Yeah, historiography and overlap in the common interest to document oral histories, narratives, and memories, and people's ways of remembering and narrating the historical past in an ethnographic present diverge often from those of academics. So what I mean, this is actually the challenge to build the bridge between what people are saying, how they remember, then to look at the ideological, etc., contexts in which knowledge is produced, and then kind of read between the lines what is actually, what is the oral history. And I was very glad of my previous speakers who said that actually oral history is not just like you go somewhere and someone tells you and that's the truth and that's how you document it, but you need to actually have a serious disciplinary training to kind of apply oral history, and you need the knowledge also around, and the same goes for ethnography. And yeah, here besides time also space and community can function as epistemic components of remembering and narrating history. And yeah, and Bhagat Singh's legacy also, I've tried to hint at, may be understood as being informed through a co-production of all three components, on as a community history, as also as a spatial history located in different spaces, and also as a time related Eurocentric, or like a pattern of history that, okay, Bhagat Singh was in this year, did this and that, and from this, you know, like that's what we usually, how we very often perceive history to be told and written. Yeah, thank you very much for your attention, and yeah, I'm looking forward to questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Philip Zamish, for the wonderful presentation. On the behalf of the chair, we would like to open the floor for questions, but we will take just one or two very relevant questions so that you can enjoy your tea after that and discuss your questions and comments with the speakers in that. Yes, please.
Thank you very much. It was a very wonderful session. And I want to pinpoint something for Dr. Philip, that in this Faisalabad, this Lyallpur, there is a community of some youngsters that are working on Bhagat Singh. They are painting him. They are making his lifespan on the canvas. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. If anybody has a question, he can ask. Yes, please.
Assalamu alaikum and good noon, everyone. I'm Kainat Farooq from Government College University, Faisalabad. And my question is from Dr. Philip. I just wanted to know that since we are talking about historical narratives, and there are a lot of narratives that are counter narratives in history that we are writing back to the sender and to those who have once manipulated them, or to the powerful. So I just wanted to know that to what extent you find the historical narratives that are based on the cultural pride of that community in the context of regional historical narratives. Like in Karunjar, Sindh, there is a Hindu community and they have their own cultural uniqueness and their ways of living. So there are a lot of problems they are facing in that community, in that area. I just wanted to know that instead of writing back to the center either colonial literature or the other literatures, so how much you find that there is a celebration of culture, celebration of customs and traditions in historical accounts? I hope I am able to...
Yes, please.
Do I need to ask the question again?
Did you got her point? You got her point, what she is asking?
I think so.
Okay.
Okay.
And thanks also for the comment before that, because I'm aware of there is Bhagat Singh has this potential to be adopted, and it's also let's say it's curious. I'm curious about what people are doing, because I've been also trying to document that. Yeah, I think, of course, there's a sort of celebration of communities in their own narrations of history, and also when historians or anthropologists would document them, no doubt. I just think it's important, as you mentioned, to write back to the center in the current state, that the center kind of diversifies its narrative, but not only in the way that saying, okay, we admit minorities to exist and they can also celebrate and have all their cultural festivals, but also to take them serious as having a distinctive history, and also a history of, more importantly, of actually overlap with other religious communities, and they not exist in a vacuum. Actually, especially the Punjab was known before partition as a place of very hybridity between different religious communities. So I think that is something that can be also celebrated, or let's not celebrate is maybe a big word, but being aware of, and maybe trying also to move some of the narrative in that direction.
So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Abdul Qadir Mushtaq, for conducting such beautiful session. Thank you so much to all the speakers. Tea is ready outside. Please enjoy your tea.